Not many people are aware of my condition. When telling my close friends, it doesn't appear to have been an issue. The "it" in question being Asperger Syndrome, a neurodevelopmental disorder on the autistic spectrum that I, like a small percentage of others, have to live with. This is designed to share my life experiences and how I overcame many obstacles. Now, before the title is misunderstood, the "so what" doesn't mean I don't care or I'm in denial. It's meant to mean and, I'm not letting my condition dictate my life. Sure, setbacks occur, but my philosophy is that this shouldn't stop me from doing what I want to do, and that approach to life is what I hope to encourage to anyone listening, regardless of your condition. I hope that by sharing my experiences, I can help people understand better if they know someone, are a parent to, or are on the autistic spectrum themselves. My ideas may not be right for everyone, but that doesn't mean they are wrong either. My earliest memory was when I was around the age of 2. The rest, before and after, till around 5, is understandably hazy, though to be honest, I sometimes can't even remember yesterday, let alone 1993. That time seems so peculiar, an eclectic mix of ethereal kaleidoscopic visions, a montage, snippets, unsure what was a dream and what wasn't. The memory in question was of shoving a nurse across a room at great strength. Only when I was older did my mum clarify the incident and reveal why I did that. I cannot describe how wonderful my mum is in words, but she knows my gratitude for her love and support is forever there. I couldn't and wouldn't have any other mum. She means that much to me. Back and forth to the doctors and children's hospitals when my mum expressed concern about me. "Something's not right," she'd say to her mum, who simply thought I was fine. A hearing test was attempted on me at my review at 2, after the NHS Finalist thought I was deaf. "John is not deaf," my mum remarked. "I'm sure if you shake a packet of crisps in the next room, he'll come running." After several consultations in between, the next course of action was to send me for an MRI scan. Bluntly refusing sedation, this is where my memory of sending a nurse flying across the room comes from. Not even the power of my dad pinning me to the bed could stop my resilience. This must have all been very confusing and distressing for me, with the next memory that follows in question, wandering around the living room, feeling, in hindsight comparatively, drunk. This is because, as stated in the hospital's letter of apology, they'd put enough sedatives in me to anaesthetise an elephant, yet I was still standing. Talk about mind over matter. From birth to 5, I was in and out of the doctors and hospital with the likes of croup and rhinovirus. Anyone would have thought I was a hypochondriac. Tinnitus and hyperacusis as well, though they don't seem to affect my life as much now. I never really had a first word. It was mainly babble or parrot-talking advertisements, running up to my mum and stating that every little helps, and 8 out of 10 cats preferred whiskers. Faintly remembering preschool, pushing a chair around for the entire morning session and only managing to sit for register when having an Argos catalogue put in front of me to look at the pictures. Cartoons seemed to be the only form of entertainment that stimulated my interest, having my mum calm me down by singing Disney songs whilst holding her hands over my ears. It was poignant of me to revisit the preschool for Trident work experience at 15, and how it was a lot smaller than I remembered. Sadly, it's burnt down now after a callous arson attack. Even when starting reception in primary school did that level of ingenuity, the school's words not mine, become apparent. Though at this stage more common sentences and statements to be had in between flourishes were, "I'm John Clark." Thankfully it was through a speech therapist I was referred to at the local clinic that I received my diagnosis of Asperger Syndrome at the age of 5. I was at an age where I wouldn't have been able to process this. The world was confusing enough. Rightfully so, my mum explained to me about Asperger Syndrome when I was around 10, after I began to ask questions like, "Why don't I fit in?" and "Am I normal?" In many ways I must have been right of age, as Asperger Syndrome was officially realised as a disability in 1994. The most profound anecdote of my early school years came from when my teacher asked me what the letter apple started with. F, I said. No, John, apple starts with the letter A. No, miss, I think you'll find it starts with the letter F, as it is a fruit. Would have liked to have known what my friends and others thought of me, as I seemed engrossed in my own little bubble. The support my mum found for me herself, my dad might as well have not been around at all, still boggles my brain. Physiotherapy for my hypotonia, and a child psychologist. Growing up with siblings was perhaps the greatest blessing in helping refine my social and communication skills. Not so much at 3, when your younger sister arrives harbouring the most attention and your older brother is a wind-up merchant. My older brother received his diagnosis of a more severe form of Asperger Syndrome later on in his life, which in hindsight made sense to his rather, at times, awkward and eccentric behaviour. At the family support and activity sessions, people thought it was him with the condition and not me. But yeah, he's happy, in his own little bubble, and fine to get on with, when he's in a civil mood and sound frame of mind. But hey, whose siblings are perfect? So as I get older and the details in my memories fade, only what my mind regards as milestones and accomplishments remain, retaining common knowledge. Shame I can't seem to retain common sense, a seemingly popular trait. Primary school felt like an eternity, and despite having friends, still finding my feet in the ways of socialising, I have memories of wandering away from my group of friends unnoticed, drifting along the playground in the autumn and the school field in the summer. Academically sound, displaying intelligence but still learning the second language of social skills in the back of my head, unaware why it didn't come so easy to me. Why don't I fit in? I inquired. Am I different to other people? It was around this time that my mum began to explain that I have Asperger Syndrome and gave me some useful books to read. Oh, so that's why, I remarked in relief, a sigh and tears of joy knowing what this condition was all about, how it's part of me, and learning to accept myself for who I really am. I find it somewhat unfortunate that many adults find such a diagnosis until their 40s and 50s. Activity group after activity group, it still amazes me to this day the diversity of Asperger Syndrome and autism alone. How, like people without any condition or disability, every single individual is unique, but equal. Accept difference, not indifference, the brilliantly realised motto of the National Autistic Society. At times I was still puzzled by the likes of idioms and phrases. What's a blind eye, Mum? But with the ever-growing resources and full realisation of the internet, I still remain shrouded in some levels of innocence before being subjected to secondary school. So, leaving primary school behind and eager to get into the exciting world of secondary school. Oh, how I was wrong. I'm glad though that I wasn't homeschooled. As harsh as this sounds, you kind of have to experience how cruel and nasty some people can be. I mean, sure, the line, kids can be so cruel, was thrown around the place, but not to the extent when I was at secondary school. Sure, the learning support was magnificent, and being eased gently into secondary school is a thoughtless and commendable process. And sure, some on the spectrum find it fine to confine themselves in the solitude of the learning support room, but I attempted to fit in. Maybe they did and do so because they gave and give up. Though there was only one person from primary school I knew, he eventually drifted away from me, leaving me to flounder. He wasn't that much of a friend to me anyway. So yeah, I attempted to fit in by being myself, but the crowds I entered were just, well, terrible. It's par for the course to be bullied by the older kids, but once they leave you alone, it's not really right to be bullied by your own year. Disgusting rumours spread like wildfire, and before you know it, I was one of the most disliked people in my year. Trick questions, confusing wordplay, and other baffling social obstacles had me stumbling in a laughing joke. So easy to wind up and snapping at the wrong people at the wrong place and time, and in turn, digging myself an ever deeper hole. Finding solitude with the kids in my brother's year only proved as a temporary pain relief. The bullying was never physical, it was perhaps psychological and emotional manipulation, social rejection. Name-calling was something I overcame at primary school, but like a pack of wolves, they smelt out my weakness and savaged it until there was nothing left. The it being confidence. If you imagine confidence as an open hand, the relentless torment closed this hand of confidence until I gave up with standing up for myself and snapping under the weight of anxiety and stress. Through being ill with gastritis, my clinical depression developed. 3 months off ill with gastritis, and my need for self-exile and isolation grew and grew. Sure, I was given a welcome back, but that didn't last long. Missing my SATs, which hardly impacted my academic grades anyway, and being subjected to middle sets entering the penultimate year of secondary school. With the depression growing, I was re-referred back to my child psychologist from my childhood, and, once again, drew a picture, though this time of what was on my mind, that seemingly resonated with her again. It was only after meet-up pranks, date hoaxes, and Freudian slip after Freudian slip did I think it was a good idea to completely shut myself off from everyone. As soon as I finished a class, that was it, on my own. Misunderstood, taken advantage of, and resorting to self-solitude. Continuously academically sound, it seemed the frustrations of social impediments continued to dangle over my every step. So now, with a self-esteem as low as it could be, academically and socially classed as an in-betweener of sorts, I continued to simply drift alone. Confusing having a soft spot for someone to genuinely liking them, amongst other excruciatingly nauseating awkward situations. Puzzled by banter too, having to accept the idea of a joke being a name-calling followed by a smack, and then followed by, "I'm only joking," with incessant patronising smiles and any attempt to goad me until I was blue in the face. To this day, I am more annoyed that someone is wasting their time trying to get a rise from me, as opposed to the context of whatever hilarious wind-up that's inflicted on me as an attempt to belittle and ridicule. It was around this age a social circle was brave enough to accept me as one of theirs when seeing me alone. An impartial clique of in-betweeners, and most of them females. It was through them, as well as my mum and 2 sisters, I became in touch with my feminine side. I am the first to admit I am a pansy. Nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean I'm gay, though apparently in school everything is gay. More and more GCSE revisions, but also more and more opportunities to properly hang out with this newly established group of friends. Friends that I would sadly part ways with when finally finishing school and deciding to pick a career path and follow it. I didn't originally pick media, just 3 random subjects I had relevant substantial knowledge in. Didn't stop the mockery, especially after a history trip to Belgium and France. Really insightful, just not enjoyable when made to detest your peers even more. It was around this time that counselling was a serious agenda, moving on from child psychologist and being prescribed antidepressant after antidepressant. And getting round to Prozac, it was no more than a placebo to me, but that didn't stop me attempting to overdose at 16. In hindsight, it was more to rid of my depression as opposed to my life. Granted, I didn't take enough to do any damage, but it was an eye-opener to not do it again. Especially since social workers peered their heads through, only to vanish when realising how amazingly supportive and caring my family are. And of course, my mum couldn't be any happier when around this time she met the man of her dreams who we ended up moving in and living with. So with school finally rid of and severed like some sort of malignant tumour, I could finally flush out all frustrations, misunderstandings and woe and channel it into creating stories and socialising with peers more on my wavelength in an environment where we all like and want to study the same thing. Granted, I had brushes with old flames from secondary school, inevitable, but they were soon extinguished after becoming an inadvertent social hand grenade and committing social suicide in a rather disastrous caravanning holiday, one you may see loosely based but recreated in a future story of mine. With an undeniably committed focus on college, though the DOS days were even more enjoyable, my social impediments grew less and flourishes of my personality began to leave a mark, as I chose the same college to study a degree in television and film production there. Truly in my prime and revelling in an intense focus, no pun intended, I was finally amongst peers on my maturity levels and wavelengths. No misunderstandings, no faux pas or Freudian slips, just intensely passionate filmmakers and a very good group of friends. So I wasn't your average fresher, and I didn't experience living away from home, but that was fine. Studying from home in my comfort zone, preferring pubs to clubs, and studying as it's my passion. You know it's bad when you reach 20, and you roll your eyes and shrug your shoulders at the 16-year-olds that behaved in a way you once did. Bloody students. But that was the beauty of university at a college campus, continuous retrospect and hindsight. And yes, I needed a final lot of counselling to finally banish the demons of secondary school bullying, but it worked. I let go, and eventually grew up, with an even more fitting sentiment when a peer from school profusely apologised for not sticking up for me, and stating how they're all still... well, I can't say that word, but you know. Talk about every cloud. If anyone from secondary school has been watching and ridiculing, I have 2 words to say to you. Thank you. Why? Because I am incredibly grateful that you all helped me teach how rotten people can be, and further increasing my chances of succeeding in my chosen career path. It sounds stupid, but it taught me enough, and if any fair weather friends bandwagon, I'm sure you can work out what my response to you will be. No response. Like my first relationship, I was one for being a hopeless romantic, but it became apparent that being too nice didn't get you anywhere. I'm not condemning my ex, who, if you're watching, hi, and hope you're well, but then again there's no level of condoning the fact that we both shared the mutual ground of having Asperger Syndrome, but with conflicting personalities, trust issues and insecurities, the relationship not working out as well as it could have. But if she tells a different side to the same story, then let her. She was a massive part of my life and grown up to understanding the workings of a true relationship. University got tougher, and the dates, flings and one-night stands remained no more than forgetful memories. It wasn't urgent to crave for a love and special intimate connection, but it would have been nice. Inadvertent matchmaking, gooseberry, third wheel and friend-zoned, until I found the love of my life after ironically losing my way after graduating from university. False promises and false hope dented my confidence in aiming for my career aspirations, but in turn, finding that one true person who emotionally and intimately connects with me in true love and through thick and thin. Yes, that was hopelessly romantic, but it's true. By being one of the closest people to me who accepts me and my ways for the way they are, I can truly be myself and open up about past issues, eccentricities and rigid styles of behaviour that are seemingly out of control. With a like-minded person who loves and cares about you, regardless of any condition or mental health issues you may be having, I found that as long as it's a genuine love of give and take, you can't really go wrong. In the time of making this, I am 23 years old, a lot more open-minded, outspoken and outgoing. Open arms embracing what the future has to hold for me, not letting Asperger Syndrome, depression or any sort of medical, physical or psychological obstacles obstruct me from doing what I want to do. Sure, there are times when the obstacles become too much, overwhelming sense of anxiety and fear, and feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's fine to stop, to calm, and have a breather, but as long as you keep going and keep pushing yourself, persevering to do what you want to do. Some people haven't been as lucky as me to have the love and support that I've had around me all my life, but I can assure you, in my experience, to keep going no matter what reaps rewards. I just hope in all of this I've inspired you and cemented the message of hope. Accept difference, not indifference. Embrace who you are, and if you make mistakes, learn from them. No matter what condition, you are who you are. I have Asperger's. So what?